Hi, I'm Craig.
And I'm Gina.
We are the founders of Blended Together Forever.
We started this podcast to give hope and encouragement to blended families. We want to just take a little time to share some of our stories with you.
We are here with Libba Tullos. Hi, Libba. So glad to see you.
Thank you so much.
We've got some real good history together. One of our sons used to be in your class.
Like
you were his
15
teacher
years ago.
many years ago.
Yes.
And then we reconnected when we spoke at Hope Fellowship in Frisco and actually spoke at one of the weekend services, and you helped guide us through that process. So we are glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
Libba has had both experience in the church world as well as the educational world. Mm-hmm. So you've got a unique perspective in seeing how society, trends, kids, divorce, remarriage, blending that you can really speak to. And so we are glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You know, when I remember when we had you guys at Hope, and I was so excited that we were willing to talk about blended families on a Sunday morning.
Yes.
I personally am married with 2 kids. I've never walked through a blended family. However, I have so many people in my life who are currently or have walked through blending. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we were going to finally talk about it on a Sunday was a big deal to me, for them and just for everybody, because it impacts over half the congregation. So I think a lot of times as a creative pastor, we were kind of spooked by the subject of how to really bring it up in a church setting. And the reality is we shouldn't be scared about it. We should be completely open to talk about it and love people well through it.
Right.
So, yeah, that was a big deal to me that you guys were willing and bold enough to just share your story and how God redeems, reroutes, restores, rebuilds, and that we could offer that hope to a lot of people.
Yeah, and you did, and we pray that all churches would follow suit. You know, just to give you some numbers, there's 113 million adults that have at least one step family relationship. We know the divorce rate is high for first marriages. Well, it's even higher in second marriages, and typically those kids and those relationships are, disjointed. Mm-hmm. So what have you seen? You've been in the church world, you've been in the educational world. Give us your perspective with what you've seen with kids, adults, and everything.
I think we're scared to talk about it. I think in churches, as a communicator, I think we're spooked because we feel like we're giving people permission and license and suggesting that they get a divorce, and that's not it at all. In fact, we're trying to, I remember when you guys spoke about it, you spoke about the fact that divorce rate was higher the second time around, so the grass wasn't always greener. So I think what I've noticed is that the fear is keeping us from talking about the fact that God can intervene and heal families through divorce and not through divorce, if that makes sense, that it can be talked about.
Right.
Yes.
That we don't have to be spooked by it. As a teacher now, so many of my students are walking through divorce with their families. As a teacher now, I've noticed that so many of my kids in my class currently in middle school are walking through blended families. And it's not just the parents that are walking through it, in my perspective, just from what I've talked with them, the students are walking through it.
Right, absolutely.
And there's this idea that they're broken. As a teacher, one of the things that I've noticed in my classroom is that so many of my students are walking through divorce with their parents. And it concerns me that society is telling them that they're broken and that they're damaged in some way and that they're not going to be okay.
Right.
And I've just found the opposite to be true. When the parents do the very best they can to love each other through the process and out of the process, or however it looks for them, I just feel like we're going to give the kids the best possible scenario we can.
Right.
And so one of the things I feel strongly about is when I encounter students who are walking through divorce with their families, to tell them, you're going to be fine. God's going to take care of you. He's got a plan for your life. That plan did not change. He's going to redeem the situation. He's going to give you a loving father to take care of you, a loving mother to take care of you, blended parents to take care of you. I just don't think we have to be scaring them that they're not going to be okay.
So why do you think the scare tactic is there, and that's the permeating attitude?
I think When I've seen kids struggle is when the two parents that are getting a divorce attack each other.
Yeah.
Now,
Good
again,
point.
I've not walked through this,
Sure.
but just from the perspective of what I've seen, when those two people refuse to forgive and love the child, then their
Right.
responsibility now turns towards the child to take care of them.
Right.
You guys tell me, but I feel like the fear there, what's happening is when they turn on each other, that's when the child is destroyed. When I haven't seen that happen, when I have some family friends that they have walked through divorce, painful divorce, but they have chosen to lovingly care for their child and co-parent together the best they can. It's years later now. That child is thriving. Their families get together for different holidays.
That's great.
They have forgiven each other. They're walking in redemption and God's freedom and God's grace and God's love. Both are remarried. Both are blended families coming together now. I mean, I've seen it now, and I just think, why are we not talking about that? That
Right.
is not a license to get a divorce. I think you should fight for your marriage.
Sure.
I think you should try at all costs. Should that marriage dissolve, and sometimes people are staying in marriages that are so toxic that it's
Oh, yeah.
healthier to get out of them, biblically speaking reasons, but should that marriage dissolve, I think that there's another way for it to be healthy, and I just think we're not telling kids that.
Yeah.
We're not telling them they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
You know, you've got a perspective. When the kids were little, you would go to the lunchroom. At that point, parents could eat together.
Right.
And
With the
you were
kids.
noticing that what Liv is talking about
Yeah.
is not an exception to it's the rule. That's
Right.
what is sitting around the table. So talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that for just a second.
It was the first year into our marriage. I noticed I went each week to have lunch with different ones of the kids, and that was back when you were allowed to sit at the table and
Yeah.
communicate with all their friends around the table. And I came home one day, I'll never forget this, and I said to Craig, every child at that table is in a blended family. And then when we would be at church, we would notice the numbers there too. Not as much, but at school it was the norm. It was really the norm at the lunch tables, more so than the families that were still intact. So we knew then it was everywhere. And I think the reason we don't see it as much in the church is because people feel shame.
Yes.
There's nowhere to go.
Yes.
There's no groups that they're like because they're not like the other
Right.
marriage
Yes.
classes.
Yes.
And so it doesn't really address the problems and the situations that they're coming up against. And also, we can tell you from personal experience that there was the little shame that we felt, you know,
I bet.
when we would meet other couples. And to us, that's the place where they should go to feel loved and welcomed, and to have the perspective, like you said, that you're going to be okay. Your kids are going to be okay. So I think you're right. It's very much needed.
Yeah, you know, like I had students talking about it pretty openly. I teach a Bible class, and they were talking pretty openly about their families, and they want to be able to talk about the fact that they have stepmom or stepdad, or blended, or that their parents are walking through something, or that they're not walking through something. Everybody wants to be able to feel like they can come to the table, and it's when we tell them to shh, don't talk about that I think that's when they start to stuff, and that's when they start to numb it and turn to things that are unhealthy. And I think the Lord would say, come to the table and talk and find like my love here, and find care here. And that's like saying those kids didn't choose the divorce, their parents did.
Right.
And so I'm so excited that you guys are reaching out to not only the parents, but to the children, that's something you want to do, because I just feel like there's so much hope for them, and they don't have to be hold their head down. A story that comes to mind, one of my best friends walked through divorce. I can tell you with full integrity, she fought for her marriage more than anyone I've ever seen. So it wasn't a license to go, grass is greener, get a divorce. I think you guys even said it's harder.
Sure.
So there's no one here is saying that
It
it's
is.
any easier or that
Correct.
it's the answer. However, in her situation, it was the best and healthiest option for her to dissolve that marriage. When she walked through divorce, I used to meet her in the parking lot, and she would hold her head down. I noticed when she would close the car door, she would hold her head down, and she would walk almost like a prisoner into the auditorium. Finally, I said something. Why are you holding your head down? Why till we get to the row? And I worked at the church at that time. Why do you wait till we get to the row and then you kind of finally lift your head up? She said, I'm just like so embarrassed. I feel so much shame that I'm a divorced woman. And it was like 2-3 songs into the worship set that she would allow herself to sing. And then the host would come out and the host would talk about fixing your marriage. Well, it'd be another look down at the ground. And again, try, fight.
Sure.
I'm sure you guys would agree to that.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
At all cost, fight. But this woman now, years later, I'm so thankful she doesn't hold her head down anymore.
Oh, that's great.
She and her ex-husband are going to celebrate their first holiday together in years. The kids are going to benefit from it this year. It's been 6 years since she's got a divorce. They're on good terms. The kids are thriving. God has healed, redeemed, rerouted, restored. But I think, again, we're so scared to talk about it.
Yeah.
And we're so scared to acknowledge it in church. But those people are sitting in the chairs. And so to act as though they're invisible or that they don't count or that they're dirty in some way, well, so are all of us.
Sure.
We're all sinners saved by grace, married,
Absolutely.
not married. So I just have a huge passion for giving people permission to talk about it.
Well, I'm
And
so
what
glad
you
you
guys
are.
are doing, loving people well through it.
Well, thank you. And
Yeah.
and what a better place to talk about it than the church. That's why Jesus created the church. This should be the go-to place.
I agree.
And if the church, we've got a good friend down in Corsicana that did a podcast for us, and he said, years ago, Chuck Swindoll said, keep the standard high, but expect imperfection because we're dealing with people. He goes, this is his term, the reality. This is the reality of who is sitting in my pews. So if I'm
Talk to
not
them.
reaching them, if I'm not talking their language, if I'm not meeting their needs, what are we the church for? We do that in other areas. We celebrate regeneration, and we're not condoning, maybe some addictive behavior, but it's a
Absolutely.
redemptive posture by saying, come in here.
Absolutely.
We love you. We've got a plan. We've got a program.
Yes.
Same thing here.
Yes.
Because the kids, like you just said, your couple friend that works so well co-parenting together, they made it about their kid.
Absolutely.
And that's
I
why
asked
that
them,
child is thriving.
how in the world are y'all doing this? And they said, we looked at our daughter when we got a divorce and said, how can we not? She's so priceless and valuable to us. How can we not figure out a way to get along for her? And they did it, and I'm telling you, it is unbelievable to see how healthy their family is today because of all the hard work. And some people can't do that.
Right.
I've talked to so much pastoral counseling with people over 18 years. I've talked to so many people in pain, and sometimes you can't reconcile the relationship. But again, I think what you guys are offering are resources,
Yes.
your wisdom, your scraped knees where you've gotten it wrong,
Sure.
where you wish you could go back. And I think you share such a strong, healthy message about it's not always easier the second time around.
Right.
Don't leave this thinking this is going to be better.
No.
You guys are preaching the gospel, and so I hope that more people get this message out. I really do.
Talk to something, Libba. I'm sitting here thinking of your couple friend that is co-parenting so well. They said, well, how could we not co-parent well? Because they made their daughter the focal point. But as people are struggling, maybe even listening to this podcast, they're so angry, they don't even see the kids as the answer. It's, I'm going to get back at you because you did this to me or what. And so, in other words, we're fighting the wrong enemy with the wrong weapon. Like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Exactly
It's
right.
not about you, it's about your child.
Yeah.
Talk to that parent or spouse that's just so angry. That's all because you've got wisdom. You deal with kids that have walked this, and whatever stories that you have to share, I think that would be so helpful for people.
You know, I have a girl in my class right now for 3 days in a row. Does anyone have any prayer requests? Her hand went up. Pray for me for Thursday. Pray for me for Thursday.
Oh boy.
Third day, pray for me for Thursday. Finally, I said, "What's Thursday?" She said, "It's my parents' wedding anniversary. It's the 2 years past when they got a divorce." And I said, "What are you concerned about?" She just said, "Just the trauma of it. They're still going at it."
Boy.
And I thought, again, I'm talking from a place where I'm married. I've not walked through
Right.
what you guys have walked through or what these families have walked through, but we prayed for Thursday. She came to class today. Today's Monday. And I said, "How was Thursday?" And she said, "You know what? I feel like God intervened."
Wow.
That they had a phone call. They even talked about making sure the other one had the extra Christmas ornaments this year, that they were going to share the ornaments. And I thought, it's the kid is seeing you act like Christ when you do that.
Right.
The kid wins because they see that the very person who could throw stones at any of us chose not to.
Exactly.
And so if Jesus himself is not a stone thrower,
Great point.
it's not gonna make the marriage go back together. It's not gonna make anybody get any healthier to keep attacking that person. I think that's where counseling comes in. I would
Sure.
highly recommend that for as many people,
Absolutely.
married or not, go to counseling. I think that's where you put some people around you to be honest with you, to tell you that you're growing more and more bitter and not getting healthier. But I think for the kids, I can tell you, because I'm with them every single day, the ones that are doing well academically, socially, getting rest, physically, they seem to be doing well, are the ones that their parents are choosing to be Christ-like to each other. It's just, there's no way around it. I cannot tell you anything otherwise to make anyone feel better. That's the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
So.
That's good.
At the core of this, there's a faith and a belief in Jesus. There's people that are watching this that they go, "I'm not trying religion. I'm not trying that Jesus stuff. I gave up on church." So maybe they don't have that same paradigm.
That's true.
But they're in a situation, an ex or kids. What would you tell the person that is still going through this but doesn't have that same faith foundation that maybe we have to help them navigate what they're trying to do from your perspective?
I don't know that I'd want to tell them something as much as I'd want to sit beside them and hold them. I think that they hurt.
Yeah.
I think at the core of someone who is bitter and angry and crushed on all sides, I think it's just such a deep pain. And so I would think that I would want to just reach over and hug them and tell them that that's what their Heavenly Father would want to do with them if they would allow Him to come in, that He would want to heal the broken places. And I just think you touched on something that I think that we can't say enough. I think shame keeps us quiet and isolates us and scares us more than it has to. I think we've given so much power over to shame. I think there's so many people walking into our church buildings every single Sunday who are just so beat down by their sin and their mistakes. And again, that should be the safest place. And so I would tell them, if you don't know the Lord, you're welcome to come to church anyway.
Right.
Please
That's
don't
great.
stay away. Find peace and community and a donut and coffee and
Yeah.
whatever else the church has to offer you. Don't
Right.
stay on the outside because you feel broken and dirty or angry. He can handle your anger.
Sure.
And He can handle your pain. And so I'd want to sit beside them and hug them and tell them that that's what I believe the Lord would want to do too.
That is
Yeah,
so good.
that is good.
Yeah.
I
That
mean,
is
it
great.
even starts before blended families.
Yeah.
Of us reaching out and helping those that are single moms, single dads that are going through that there's so much pain, and then as they blend,
Yeah.
there still needs to be community for them as well.
Yeah. You know, something else randomly, as I'm sitting here, I just feel like the Holy Spirit may nudge this too. If you have hurt your ex in some way, I think there's this idea, again, this is from a perspective having not walked through it, but the stories I've heard for 18 years now.
Yeah.
And if you have hurt your ex in some way, I would encourage you to go back to them and tell them you're sorry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's this idea, again, there's embarrassment and shame and, well, it's already done.
Yeah.
I've already messed up. And I think Christ would say, no, cross the street, walk
Right.
over
He would.
and apologize to them.
Yeah.
And I think that carries more than we realize towards possibly getting healthy as a blended family and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
step parenting and all of that. Owning and apologizing.
And there's a lot of forgiveness that needs to go on continually in a blended family.
I can only imagine.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and really forgiving sets us free. It's like, well,
Yes.
they did this to me, so I'm not going to forgive them.
Yes.
And maybe it was wrong, but we're the ones, if we don't forgive, that are held captive.
Absolutely.
So-
and the kids are seeing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, they see that we talk grace but don't give it, and
Yeah.
they need to see it with the sharing of the ornaments, or, you know, we're gonna,
Yeah.
you know, send so and so a stepdad an invitation, or we're gonna, you know, just be kind.
Right.
Yeah.
We got to have you come back.
Okay. I'd love to.
Before-
I love
she-
these people.
Oh, we love you.
Yeah,
We're
I
so
bet.
grateful that for you to take the time to do this. We
Yes.
pray that
Oh.
this.
I believe in what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
You're
we're
helping people.
We're
Yeah.
grateful for your friendship.
Oh, thank
You know, you may have some last thought or question, but let me just give you my parting thought real quick. Somebody told me a long time ago, we're all broken. And
It's true.
when the jar's been broken, Jesus didn't leave the broken pieces on the floor. He picked them up and he made a beautiful stained glass window. And I thought that's a good picture of a blended family, that we were broken, but God didn't leave us
good.
there. And if the church as a whole could say, okay, yeah, they're broken, we're all broken, let's pick up, let's make something beautiful. It doesn't look like the original,
Right.
but it still can be something beautiful. And I think
Right.
that's what we've got
Yes.
Yes.
after 24 years.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing
Oh,
that.
Yes.
absolutely.
And
I want to
being with
encourage you,
us.
don't back down. Talk more and louder and,
Thank you.
you know, as much as you can, because I really do think that you have a message that is going to free a lot of people, a lot of religious people who are scared to talk about, you know,
Yeah.
the people in the chairs that are hurting and that are walking through difficulty right now. And your story that God has redeemed and rerouted and restored is pretty miraculous. No doubt there's a lot of hard work that goes into that.
Sure.
I can only imagine.
Yes.
But just thank you for your redeeming message, and I would just encourage you to please just be bold in it, and don't ever allow the enemy to come in and tell you that it's not working.
Great point.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.